Hello, dear friends. It's Sarah from the Pine Ridge Community Wellness Center. I'm so glad you could join me today for a quiet chat. I've been thinking a lot lately about something we all share, something that happens to each of us, every single day, without fail. The evening hour. There's something special about the end of the day, isn't there? The house grows quiet. The work is done. The phone stops ringing. And we finally have a moment to ourselves. A moment to unwind. For some of us, it's settling into our favorite chair with the evening news. For others, it's puttering around the kitchen, maybe preparing a little something. Or perhaps it's stepping out onto the porch, watching the sky change colors. These moments are precious. They're ours, and they should feel restorative. But here's what I've noticed in my years working with folks in our community. Have you ever found that even after winding down, you wake up the next morning feeling not quite as sharp as you'd hoped? Maybe a little foggy, or just a step behind where you used to be? You're not alone in this. Not at all. I hear it all the time. Sarah, I used to bounce right out of bed. Now it takes me an hour to feel like myself. Or, I sleep 8 hours but I don't feel rested. And you know what? We often blame it on getting older. We tell ourselves it's just the way things are now. But I've learned something important over the years. Sometimes it's not about the years we've lived. Sometimes it's about the small habits we've picked up along the way. Habits that seemed helpful at the time. Habits that felt like treats or rewards. But maybe, just maybe, they're not serving us as well as we thought. Now, before you worry, let me be clear about something. Today, we're not going to talk about scary warnings or drastic, life-altering changes. Far from it. We're not going to use words like never or always or you must. Instead, we're simply going to explore a few small, gentle shifts we can make in our evening routines. Think of them as small investments in our long-term brain health. Little gifts we give ourselves to ensure our mornings are as bright as our evenings are peaceful. These aren't rules. They're invitations. Gentle suggestions from someone who cares about your well-being and wants you to feel your best every single day. I want you to think of this conversation like we're sitting together in my living room. Maybe you have a cup of tea in your hands. Maybe you're in your favorite spot on the couch. There's no pressure here, no judgment. Just two people talking about how to feel a little better tomorrow than we do today. The beautiful thing about the small changes we're going to discuss is that they don't require you to give up the things that bring you comfort. They're about adding good things to your routine, not taking beloved things away. They're about listening to your body with kindness. About being curious rather than critical. About making choices that honor both your present comfort and your future vitality. So, grab a comfortable seat. Perhaps pour yourself a warm cup of herbal tea. Get your favorite blanket if you'd like. And let's explore this together. Because here's what I truly believe. You have so much more control over how you feel than you might imagine. And every small conscious choice you make is an act of love for yourself. Let's begin. Let's start with something we rarely think about, but that affects us every single day. I call it the unseen thirst. Now, when you were younger, your body was pretty good at telling you when you needed water. You'd feel thirsty, you'd drink, and that was that. But as we get older, something interesting happens. That thirst signal becomes, well, quieter. It's not that our bodies need less water. If anything, staying properly hydrated becomes more important as we age. But the feeling of thirst? It's not as obvious as it used to be. Think about it. When was the last time you felt genuinely thirsty? Not just, I should probably drink something, but actually, physically thirsty. For many of us, it's been a while. This means we can be mildly dehydrated and not even realize it. We might just feel a little tired, a little sluggish, maybe a touch foggy. We might blame it on the weather or stress, or just one of those days. But here's the thing about dehydration, even the mild kind. It affects everything. Think of your bloodstream like a flowing river. When you're well hydrated, everything moves smoothly. Nutrients flow easily to where they need to go. Waste products get carried away efficiently. Your heart doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood through your system. But when you're dehydrated, that river becomes more like thick syrup. Everything slows down. Your heart has to work harder to pump blood. Your circulation becomes sluggish. And this affects every part of your body, including those delicate blood vessels in your brain. Now, here's where our evening habits come into play. Some of our favorite evening drinks, and I'm not judging, because I enjoy them too, can actually encourage our bodies to release water. Coffee, for instance. Even decaf has some compounds that act like gentle diuretics. That glass of wine with dinner? Alcohol is naturally dehydrating. Even black tea, which feels so soothing, can have a mild diuretic effect. Again, I'm not saying these are bad. I'm simply pointing out that they can tip the balance away from optimal hydration, especially in the evening when we're already winding down and maybe not drinking as much fluid as we did during the day. And here's what happens overnight. While we sleep, our bodies continue to lose water through breathing and through our skin. If we went to bed even slightly dehydrated, we wake up significantly more so. This is why you might wake up feeling foggy, or why it takes that first cup of coffee to feel human again. Your brain literally needs more water to function at its best. So, what's the solution? I call it the smart hydration ritual. And the beautiful thing is, it's not about giving up anything you enjoy. It's about adding something wonderful. Here's how it works. Step 1. The glass. Before rule. For every glass of wine, beer, or cup of coffee you have in the evening, simply have a glass of water first. Just one glass. Room temperature is fine. Cold is fine. Whatever you prefer. This isn't about restriction. It's about preparation. You're giving your body what it needs before you give it what you want. And often you'll find that after that glass of water, you actually want less of the other drink. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're genuinely more satisfied. Step 2. The bedside companion. Keep a beautiful glass or a special water bottle by your bedside. Make it part of your bedroom's landscape. Choose something lovely, maybe a pretty glass pitcher and cup, or a water bottle that makes you smile. This isn't about chugging water in the middle of the night. It's about having a gentle reminder right there if you wake up with a dry mouth, or if you simply want a sip. Many of my friends have told me this simple step made them realize how often they were waking up thirsty without really acknowledging it. Step 3. Flavorful infusions. Now, if plain water feels boring, and I understand that, let's make it a treat. Add a slice of lemon. The vitamin C is wonderful, and it makes water feel more special. Try a few cucumber ribbons for a spa-like experience. A sprig of fresh mint from your garden. A handful of berries that you lightly crush to release their flavor. You can even try a slice of orange or a few frozen grapes that slowly melt and add subtle sweetness. This turns hydration from a chore into a pleasure. It becomes something you look forward to rather than something you feel you should do. Step 4. The temperature trick. Some people love ice water, others prefer room temperature. But here's something interesting. Slightly warm water can actually be more hydrating than very cold water. Your body doesn't have to work to warm it up before it can use it. Try having a mug of warm water with a slice of lemon in the evening. It's soothing, it's hydrating, and it can become part of your wind-down routine. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Start with just one of these steps. See how it feels. Notice if you wake up. Our next gentle shift has to do with those evening cravings. You know the ones I'm talking about. Let's call this the blood sugar roller coaster. Picture this. You've had a good day. Maybe you've eaten well, stayed active, taken care of your responsibilities. Now you're settling in for the evening. You're watching your favorite show, or reading, or just enjoying some quiet time. And then it happens. That little voice that says, "You know what would be nice? A bowl of ice cream. Or just a few cookies with tea. Or a nice cold soda while I watch the news." There's nothing wrong with these impulses. They're perfectly human. After a full day, we deserve a little sweetness, a little comfort. The challenge isn't the desire itself. It's what happens in our bodies when we satisfy it with certain types of foods. Let me paint you a picture of what I call the blood sugar roller coaster. Think of sugary snacks and drinks like kindling for a fire. You know how when you're trying to get a fire going, you put kindling on first? It catches quickly, creates a big bright flame almost instantly. The fire looks impressive and feels warm. But what happens next? That kindling burns through fast. Very fast. Within minutes, you're left with nothing but ash, and the fire dies down completely. Your blood sugar works similarly with sugary foods. That bowl of ice cream or those cookies create a quick, intense rise in your blood sugar. You feel energized, satisfied, maybe even a little euphoric. It's a real feeling, and it's pleasant. But just like kindling, this high burns out quickly. Your blood sugar crashes down, often to levels lower than where you started. This crash can happen while you're sleeping, disrupting your deep sleep cycles, and sometimes even waking you up. You might not consciously wake up, but your body does. It releases stress hormones to try to bring your blood sugar back up. This process can leave you feeling restless, anxious, or just off during the night. And in the morning, that's when you really feel it. You wake up groggy, maybe a little irritable, definitely not as sharp as you'd like to be. You might even find yourself craving something sweet first thing in the morning, trying to get back on that roller coaster. This cycle is particularly challenging for those of us who are older because our bodies don't regulate blood sugar as efficiently as they used to. What might have been a minor fluctuation in our younger years can now significantly impact how we feel and function. But here's the beautiful part. We can change this pattern with some simple, satisfying swaps. I call this the stable and satisfying solution. The key is to think about foods that burn more like logs than kindling. Foods that provide steady, sustained energy, rather than quick spikes and crashes. The ice cream swap. Instead of ice cream, try a small bowl of Greek yogurt with a handful of fresh berries. Now, I know what you're thinking. "Sarah, that's not ice cream." And you're right, it's not. But let me tell you why this works. Greek yogurt is creamy and satisfying. The protein acts like a slow-burning log for your metabolic fire, providing steady energy for hours. The berries add natural sweetness and wonderful antioxidants. If you want it a little sweeter, add a drizzle of honey. Try freezing the berries first. Frozen blueberries or strawberries mixed into yogurt create an almost ice cream-like texture. You can even add a sprinkle of cinnamon or vanilla extract. The cookie swap. How about instead of cookies, you try a handful of almonds or walnuts? I know, nuts aren't cookies. But they're crunchy, they're satisfying, and they're incredibly good for your brain. The healthy fats in nuts help stabilize your blood sugar. They also support brain health and can actually improve your sleep quality. If you want something a little sweeter, try dates stuffed with almond butter, or a small piece of dark chocolate with your nuts. The soda swap. Instead of soda or a sweet cocktail, consider sparkling water with a splash of pure cranberry juice or pomegranate juice. You get the fizz, the color, the ritual of having a special drink, but without the sugar spike. You can also try kombucha, which has probiotics that support gut health. Or herbal tea with a touch of honey. The ritual of brewing tea can be just as satisfying as the drink itself. The mindful approach. Here's something important. These swaps aren't about deprivation. They're about finding foods that love you back. Foods that taste good in the moment and also help you feel good tomorrow morning. Try this approach. For 1 week, notice how you feel the morning after you have your usual evening treat. Just notice. No judgment. Then, try one of these swaps for a week and notice how you feel the next morning. You're not committing to anything permanent. You're just gathering information about what works best for your body. Many of my friends have told me they were surprised to discover they actually preferred these alternatives once they tried them. Not because they were forcing themselves to like them, but because they genuinely felt better, slept better, and woke up clearer. Your body knows what it needs. Sometimes we just need to listen a little more carefully to what it's telling us. This last challenge is perhaps the most personal one. It's a habit many of us have cherished for years, maybe even decades. It's woven into our daily rhythm, our sense of reward, our very idea of relaxation. I call it the borrowed relaxation. For so many of us, there's a ritual that signals the end of the day. Maybe it's a glass of wine with dinner, or a small whiskey while reading the evening paper. Perhaps it's a cocktail during the news, or a beer while tending to the garden. A glass of wine or a small whiskey can feel like the perfect signal to the body that the day is over. It helps release the tension we've been carrying in our shoulders. It softens the edges of whatever stress we've accumulated. And that initial feeling of relaxation? It's absolutely real. I want to acknowledge that. This isn't about judgment or shame. Many of us learned these habits in times when we understood less about how alcohol affects our bodies, especially as we age. These rituals often started as celebrations, as ways to connect with friends and family, as simple pleasures after hard work. But here's what I've learned from years of working with people who want to feel their best. Alcohol-induced relaxation is like taking out a small loan. You get the benefit up front, that lovely, warm feeling of tension melting away. But you have to pay it back later in the night, often with interest. Let me explain what happens in your body. When you have that glass of wine or whiskey, your nervous system initially relaxes. Your blood pressure might drop slightly. Your muscles release tension. This is why it feels so good in the moment. But as your body begins to process the alcohol, and our bodies get less efficient at this as we age, several things happen that can affect your sleep, and, ultimately, how you feel the next morning. First, alcohol disrupts your sleep architecture. You might fall asleep easily, but the quality of that sleep is compromised. You spend less time in deep, restorative sleep, the kind your brain needs to repair, consolidate memories, and clear out the metabolic waste that accumulates during the day. Second, as your body metabolizes the alcohol, it can cause what's called a rebound effect. Your nervous system, which was initially depressed by the alcohol, now swings in the opposite direction. This can cause you to wake up in the middle of the night, feeling alert when you should be sleeping deeply. Third, alcohol affects your blood pressure throughout the night. While it might initially lower your blood pressure, it often causes it to rise later as your body processes it. This can put extra strain on your cardiovascular system while you're trying to rest. And finally, alcohol is dehydrating, which compounds the hydration challenge we talked about earlier. All of this means that while you might sleep for 8 hours, you wake up feeling like you only got 5 or 6 hours of quality rest. You might feel foggy, slightly anxious, or just off in a way that's hard to describe. But here's the hopeful part. There are other ways to signal to your body that it's time to relax. Ways that don't require you to pay back that relaxation loan later in the night. I call these the true rest rituals. The warmth ritual. Try a warm bath with Epsom salts about 90 minutes before bed. The magnesium in Epsom salts is naturally relaxing to your muscles and nervous system. The warm water raises your body temperature, and when you get out, your body temperature drops. This temperature drop is one of the most powerful sleep signals you can give your brain. Add a few drops of lavender oil if you enjoy aromatherapy. Light a candle. Make it a ceremony of self-care rather than just a quick wash. The sensory ritual: replace that glass of wine with a cup of caffeine-free chamomile or lavender tea. But here's the key. It's not just about the tea itself. It's about the ritual. The warm mug in your hands, the fragrant steam rising up, the act of sitting quietly and sipping something warm. This engages your senses in a calming way, without any of the sleep-disrupting effects of alcohol. You can even use the same beautiful glass or mug you used for your evening drink. The ritual remains, only the substance changes. The mindful ritual. Put away the screens an hour before bed. I know. This is a tough one. But blue light from televisions, tablets, and phones can interfere with your body's production of melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep. Instead, pick up a real book. Listen to calming music. Try a gentle podcast or audiobook. Write in a journal. Do a simple crossword puzzle. Give your brain a break from the constant stimulation of modern life. The breathing ritual. Try a simple breathing exercise. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 6 counts. Repeat this 10 times. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural relaxation response. You can do this in your favorite chair, in the same spot where you used to have your evening drink. You're not changing your routine completely, you're just changing what you do in that sacred time. The movement ritual. Gentle stretching or yoga can be incredibly relaxing. Even just 5 minutes of gentle movement can help release physical tension and prepare your body for sleep. Try stretching your neck, rolling your shoulders, or doing some gentle twists while sitting in your chair. Remember, the goal isn't to give up all pleasure or comfort. It's to find sources of relaxation that support your long-term well-being instead of borrowing against it. You might find that these rituals actually become more enjoyable than your old habits. Many people tell me they sleep more soundly, wake up more refreshed, and feel more genuinely relaxed with these alternatives. Try one for a week. See how it feels. Notice the difference in your sleep quality and how you feel the next morning. Your future self will thank you for this kindness. I want to tell you about a gentleman I know. His name is Arthur. He's a 72-year-old retired woodworker, sharp as a tack, with hands that have built beautiful things his whole life. Cabinets, bookshelves, toys for his grandchildren. You name it, Arthur could make it. Arthur has always been what you might call a creature of habit. Every day after dinner, he'd head out to his workshop in the garage. He'd spend an hour or two working on whatever project caught his fancy. Maybe sanding a piece of oak, or carefully fitting joints together, or just organizing his tools. There's something meditative about working with wood, Arthur always said. The smell of the sawdust, the feel of the grain beneath his fingers, the satisfaction of creating something useful and beautiful with his own hands. After his workshop time, Arthur had his evening routine. He'd come inside, wash up, and settle into his favorite recliner in the living room. His wife Margaret would bring him a small glass of whiskey. Just one, the same amount every night. And he'd watch the evening news while she worked on her knitting nearby. Before bed, Margaret would set out a small plate of the ginger cookies she made fresh every Sunday. Arthur would have 2 cookies with his whiskey, and they'd talk about their day, their plans for tomorrow, their grandchildren's latest adventures. It was a beautiful routine. Peaceful. Comfortable. The kind of evening rhythm that made life feel stable and good. But over the past year, Margaret started noticing some changes in Arthur. Small things at first. He'd forget where he put his reading glasses. He'd ask her the same question twice in one evening. He'd get frustrated trying to remember which tools he'd used the day before. More concerning to Margaret was Arthur's mood in the mornings. He'd always been an early riser, up with the sun, ready to tackle the day. But lately, he seemed groggy and irritable until well past breakfast. He'd snap at her over small things. Where did she put the newspaper? Why was the coffee different today? Arthur himself noticed he felt foggy, like he was thinking through a light haze. He'd stand in his workshop, trying to remember what he'd planned to work on. Simple tasks that used to be automatic now required conscious thought. He'd given up his morning walks because he just didn't have the energy. When his grandson visited and wanted to learn woodworking, Arthur found himself too tired and impatient to teach him properly. Arthur, like many of us, assumed this was just part of getting older. "This is what happens," he'd tell Margaret when she expressed concern. "I'm not 40 anymore. My mind's just slowing down." But Margaret, bless her heart, wasn't ready to accept that explanation. She'd always been the researcher in the family, the one who looked things up when they had questions. So she started reading about brain health, about aging, about the factors that influence how we feel and function as we get older. That's when she came across a video, very much like this one. A gentle conversation about small evening habits that might be affecting morning clarity. Margaret watched it twice. Then she approached Arthur with the kind of diplomatic skill that comes from 45 years of marriage. "Arthur," she said, "I found something interesting. Would you be willing to try a small experiment with me? Just for a week or two? If it doesn't help, we'll go back to exactly what we were doing before." Arthur, who trusted Margaret's judgment in most things, agreed. Week 1. The hydration experiment. They started with the simplest change, adding a glass of water before Arthur's evening whiskey. Margaret filled a nice glass with water, added a slice of lemon, and set it next to Arthur's chair before he came in from the workshop. "Just drink this first," she said. "Then have your whiskey as usual." Arthur grumbled a bit. He didn't see the point, and he wasn't particularly thirsty. But he'd made a promise, so he drank the water. Something interesting happened after just 3 days. Arthur woke up without the mild headache he'd been having most mornings. He hadn't even realized he'd been having headaches until they stopped. By the end of the week, Arthur admitted he felt a bit more alert in the mornings. Not dramatically different, but noticeable enough that he mentioned it to Margaret. Week 2. The snack swap. Encouraged by this small success, Margaret suggested they try changing Arthur's evening cookies. Instead of 2 ginger cookies, she prepared a small plate with some aged cheddar cheese, apple slices, and a handful of walnuts. Arthur was less enthusiastic about this change. Those cookies were part of his evening pleasure. But Margaret presented it as continuing their experiment, and she made the new snack plate look appealing. The first night felt strange. The second night, Arthur found himself enjoying the different textures and flavors. By the fourth night, he realized he was sleeping more soundly. He wasn't waking up at 2 a.m. feeling restless, which had been happening more often than he'd admitted to Margaret. Week 3. The biggest challenge. This was the hardest week. Margaret gently suggested that Arthur try replacing his evening whiskey with a cup of herbal tea. She bought him a beautiful ceramic mug, the kind that felt good in his hands, and she offered him chamomile tea with just a touch of honey. Arthur's first reaction was resistance. That whiskey wasn't just a drink. It was a ritual, a symbol of his day being complete, a small pleasure he felt he'd earned. But Margaret was patient. She didn't push. She just made the tea available and said, "Try it just once. If you hate it, we'll go back to the whiskey tomorrow." The first night was admittedly difficult. Arthur felt like something was missing from his evening. The tea was nice, but it wasn't the same warm, relaxing feeling he got from his whiskey. But the second night was easier. And by the fourth night, Arthur made a surprising discovery. He was falling asleep faster than he had in months. More importantly, he was staying asleep through the night. The transformation. After a month of these small changes, the difference in Arthur was remarkable. He wasn't a new man overnight. That's not how these things work. But he was becoming the old Arthur again. The Arthur that Margaret had fallen in love with. The Arthur who had the energy and patience to teach his grandson how to hold a chisel properly. The fog had lifted. His morning irritability was gone. He was back to his early morning walks, back to spending productive hours in his workshop, back to being present and engaged with his family. Arthur told me later, "Sarah, I didn't realize my evening routine was robbing me of my mornings. I thought those habits were helping me relax, but they were actually making me tired and foggy. I thought it was just age catching up with me, but it wasn't age at all." Margaret was delighted to have her husband back. But more than that, she was proud of both of them for being willing to experiment, to try something new, to prioritize Arthur's long-term well-being over short-term comfort. The lessons from Arthur's story. Arthur's story illustrates something powerful. Small changes can have profound effects. He didn't overhaul his entire life. He didn't give up his evening routine. He simply made 3 small substitutions that supported his brain health instead of working against it. The water helped him stay hydrated, supporting better circulation and reducing morning headaches. The protein and healthy fats in his new snack kept his blood sugar stable throughout the night. And replacing alcohol with herbal tea allowed him to get truly restorative sleep. But perhaps most importantly, Arthur's story shows us that we don't have to accept feeling foggy, tired, or irritable as inevitable parts of aging. Sometimes the solution is simpler than we think. Arthur is now 73. He's still in his workshop every evening, still creating beautiful things with his hands. But now, he wakes up every morning feeling clear, energized, and ready to engage fully with his life. He tells everyone who'll listen, "Don't assume it's just age. Sometimes it's just habits that need a little adjusting." Arthur's story shows us something beautiful, the power of small steps. But I want to be very clear about something. I'm not asking you to become Arthur overnight. I'm not asking you to change everything at once or to commit to anything dramatic. I'm simply inviting you to pick one. Just one small, gentle shift to try this week. Which one feels the easiest to you? Which one feels most inviting? Maybe it's adding a slice of lemon to your water. Maybe it's trying a handful of nuts instead of cookies one evening. Maybe it's keeping a beautiful glass of water by your bedside. It's your journey, and you get to set the pace. You get to choose what feels right for your life, your circumstances, your preferences. There's no scorecard here. There's no test you can fail. There's no perfect way to do this. There's only your way, at your speed, with your choices. Some evenings, you might choose the old habit. That's okay. Some evenings, you might try the new approach. That's wonderful too. Progress isn't about perfection. It's about gradually shifting toward choices that serve you better. I want to share something that might surprise you. Many people who make these small changes tell me they don't feel like they're giving anything up. Instead, they feel like they're gaining something. They're gaining clearer mornings, better sleep, more energy, improved mood. They're gaining a sense of control over their well-being. They're discovering that they have more power over how they feel than they ever imagined. But here's what I want you to remember most. Your health isn't a destination you arrive at. It's not a problem to be solved once and for all. It's a beautiful, personal garden that thrives on consistent, gentle care. A little water here, a little weeding there, some sunshine, some rest. Your garden doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. It just needs to be tended with love and patience. The same is true for your body, your mind, your overall well-being. Small, consistent acts of kindness toward yourself add up to profound changes over time. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be extreme. You don't need to be anyone other than exactly who you are right now. Just maybe with one small new habit that supports your long-term vitality. I would be so honored if you shared in the comments below which small step you're thinking of trying. There's tremendous strength in knowing we're not on this journey alone. When we share our intentions, we create a community of support and encouragement. Maybe you'll inspire someone else to try something new. Maybe someone else's comment will give you the gentle nudge you need to take that first small step. We're all in this together, figuring out how to age not just gracefully, but vibrantly. How to wake up each morning feeling grateful for another day instead of dreading the fog and fatigue. Here's what I truly believe. You have so much power over your well-being. More than you might imagine. More than you might have been told. Every small conscious choice you make is an act of love for your future self. The you who wakes up tomorrow morning deserves to feel clear and energized. The you who wakes up next week deserves to feel rested and sharp. The you who wakes up next month deserves to feel vibrant and engaged with life. You have the ability to give these gifts to yourself. Not through grand gestures or dramatic changes, but through small, gentle shifts that honor both your present comfort and your future well-being. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. Your journey toward feeling better doesn't begin when you've made all the changes perfectly. It begins the moment you decide you deserve to feel your best. And that moment can be right now, if you choose. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for caring enough about yourself to explore these possibilities. Thank you for being open to the idea that small changes can create meaningful improvements in how you feel. Here's to peaceful evenings and many, many bright, clear-headed mornings to come. You've more than earned them. You deserve every single one. And remember, I'm here cheering you on every step of the way. Your well-being matters. Your comfort matters. Your vitality matters. You matter. Take care of yourself with the same kindness you show to others. Be patient with yourself as you would be with a dear friend. And trust that your body wants to feel good. Sometimes it just needs a little gentle guidance in the right direction. If you found this conversation helpful, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a thumbs up. It helps other people who might benefit from these gentle suggestions find their way here. And if you'd like more conversations like this, quiet, non-judgmental chats about feeling our best as we age, please consider subscribing. I'd love to continue this journey with you. Be well, dear friends. Be gentle with yourselves. And remember, every small step counts.